Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle Tito, je fais des vidéos sur les finances personnelles sur mon autre chaîne, mais sur cette chaîne, je parle d'autres choses comme aujourd'hui où je vais revoir le film Something About the Briggs. Something About the Briggs is a drama that highlights the many social issues concerning marriage and how we choose to deal with them, as well as accommodating the coming together of different families. Something About the Briggs stars Daniel Etim Effiong, Ariyike Owolagba, Nobert Young, Anozie Young, Stan Nze, Elma Mbadiwe, Kenneth Okolie, Iyabo Ojo, Kalu Ikeagwu, and Rita Dominic, and it's produced and directed by Bukola Ogunsola. Now, this movie has been on my radar for a while, and I've been looking forward to seeing it because when they were filming it last year, I used to see it on people's Insta stories. I think maybe Daniel and Arike's Insta stories. And I remember seeing the outfits and thinking of how Bridgerton looking these outfits were in this film. And I was like, is this a Nigerian film? What could they possibly be trying to pull off with these outfits in this movie or series that these guys are making? So it's been on my mind ever since. I've been looking out for it, and finally it's out. It's been out for like 3 weeks at this point, so I'm a bit late to the party, for being honest, but I'm glad I've seen it and I'm now going to review it. Speaking of which, this review will contain mild spoilers. That said, guys, let's dive into it, beginning with les performances. Now, it's a large cast in this film, and for the most part, the actors, they work in pairs in this film. So for the performances, or to examine the performances, I'm going to look at them in pairs, beginning with Daniel Etim Effiong as Chooks and Ariyike Owolagba as Sophie. And I was curious to see how these two would work together because they're not exactly in the same age bracket, these two actors. So I was curious or worried about if they'd have that chemistry, right? And at first, in my opinion, they didn't in the film, but as the movie progressed, they became more and more believable as a couple. Surprise, surprise, Daniel plays a single man who, is looking for love. And even though it's an archetype that we were familiar with as it concerns Daniel, this one was a bit different in the sense that this guy, Chooks, was quite bewildered because of the situation that he found himself in with Sophie and her family, the Briggs. So while it was a kind of role that we're used to seeing Daniel play, it was a different Daniel for me. I saw something different with this performance and with this character. Ariyike too, I was curious to see what her performance would be like. I know Ariyike from social media. I follow her and I see her do social media stuff and I see her YouTube stuff, but I don't recall seeing her in a movie, right? So I was curious to see how she would come off on screen in a movie, right? And she did well. And she's pretty much the central character in this film, and she held her own. Moving on from them to Mr. and Mrs. Briggs, played by Nobert Young and Anozie Young, a real-life couple, right? And they play a couple in this film. They are the patriarch and the matriarch of the Briggs family, and they're believable, and they have a dynamic. They're a wealthy couple and they have a particular dynamic, and I feel like they pulled it off really well. They're really good. Nobert Young is good as usual, but his wife, Anozie Young, my goodness, I think one of my favorite performances from her ever. She held her own. She's the matriarch of the family, and she's a real force that everyone, just falls in line for in this movie, and she was really believable in the role, and she was very good. I enjoyed her performance. Next, let's talk about another very enjoyable performance, and probably my best performance as a duo. Stan Nze, I believe his character's name was Richard, and his character is married to Elma Mbadiwe's character Nina. Boy oh boy, I know in previous reviews I've gone on and on about how fantastic an actor Stan Nze is, but in this film I had the good pleasure of seeing Stan work opposite a fantastic scene partner, someone who held her own just as well as Stan did, and that's Elma Mbadiwe. Incredible performances from both of them, incredibly believable, incredibly enjoyable, and they just work so well together. And lest I forget, I think Elma Mbadiwe, slight detour, but it has to be said. I think Elma Mbadiwe, Mama Beji, because I think she had twins recently, I think she has the most beautiful smile in Nollywood, hands down. I was watching this film, and there's a point where her character and Stan's character are all loved up and everything, and she smiles, and I'm like, it just comes to my like, Elma has pretty much the best smile in Nollywood. They were just a joy to behold while watching the film. And like I said, it's one thing to see Stan do a fantastic performance, but with this film, I was like, wow, this person is actually matching Stan. And that's the thing with acting. When you have a good scene partner, you feed off their energy, right? They help you deliver even better. And I feel like Elma helped Stan do even better in their scenes because Elma herself was brilliant. And they fed off each other. And there was a joy to behold while watching this movie. I kid you not. Moving on to Iyabo Ojo and Kenneth Okolie, Jason and Bimbo. And Iyabo Ojo plays the conventional, cantankerous wife, kind of, in this film. But it's taking up another level. It's taking to another notch, right? Or to another level when she's joined by, I think, Buki Wright is the name of the actress who plays her mother. And two of them are just like, they're like Aki and Popo in this film. They're just so notorious and they work really well together. Kenneth Okolie plays her husband. They have their own dynamic. Each of the pairings, right? I wouldn't necessarily call them couples. I'll just call them pairings. They have their own dynamic, right, in this film. And their own dynamic was quite unique and interesting to watch. And it was also Kenneth Okolie like I've never seen him before. I don't think I've ever seen Kenneth Okolie play a family man, especially this type of family man, and it was enjoyable as well. And I think the last pairing I'll look at is Kalu Ikeagwu, who plays Olumide, and the amazing, legendary Rita Dominic, who plays Cynthia in this film. And boy, oh boy, another fantastic pairing in this movie. And let me just say right now, Rita Dominic like I've never seen her before, and my favorite Rita Dominic performance. I haven't seen that many, if I'm being honest, because I didn't really, I wasn't into Nollywood back in them Rita Dominic's day, right? In the early 2000s. I wasn't, is that when Rita Dominic was like, anyway, you get the point. I wasn't into Nollywood that much back in them Rita Dominic's day. And the number of films I've seen Rita Dominic in recent years, they've been limited, not that many, but of all of them, right, my favorite Rita Dominic performance. She was so energetic in this film. She had so many lines of dialogue. She was so energetic. She was so enjoyable in this film. She was fantastic. And Kalu Ikeagwu too, who is a fantastic Kalu Ikeagwu. I don't think I've seen him in anything where he dropped the ball. I've seen him in films that I did not particularly enjoy, but it was no fault of his. He did his job and he delivered. But he really delivers in this film. And once again, both actors, himself and Rita Dominic, they work really well together. They feed off each other's energy and their own dynamic too as a pairing in this film. So powerful. And there's so many messages that could have been taken from not just their pairing, but the other pairings in this movie. And what I have to say as well, and I'll talk more about this maybe when I talk about what I liked about the film, it felt particularly with the two of them like I was watching a stage play, because on stage, right, you have to use your environment. In stage plays, the actors, they move around together, they walk from one side of the stage to another side of the stage, and they're so animated. And I saw that as well with this pairing in this film. They were just so energetic and so all over the place in a good way, and it was just really nice to see. It was two of them like I've never seen them before. And I think my favorite scene from the entire movie, it was probably a scene with two of them in it. I wish I could talk about it. The build up to it was fantastic. But when you see the movie, you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about. My favorite scene in the entire movie. So yeah, those were the amazing performances in this film. Something about the Briggs. Ce que j'ai aimé. Right off the bat, the styling and the wardrobe in this movie, right off the bat. The styling was bold, ambitious, and over the top. And initially, it felt like it was a bit much. Like, who dresses like this in real life? But then again, if you can't do bold and ambitious styling in a movie, then where can you do it, right? And it's not as if it was out of place. The way they dressed, the way these characters dressed was to communicate how wealthy they were. So it had its place, and it really did make the movie stand out. Because, like I said, I saw BTS footage when they were making this film a couple of months ago, a few months ago rather. And what stuck in my mind was the fashion. I didn't remember this film for anything else, but that was enough for me to look forward to this movie. It gave this movie something, it gave it a signature right off the bat without you even seeing the film. And Stan and Daniel, right? These two actors that in real life, right, if you see them on the red carpet, you know that they're fashionable guys. I think they enjoyed making this film, and I think they enjoyed the clothes that they wore in this film, particularly Stan. Because Stan's character in this film is a very flamboyant, cocky chap, right? And he dressed really nicely too. And Stan really played it off so well. And as I was watching, I was like, Stan he's enjoying this. He's enjoying playing this character, and he's enjoying the way he moved in those clothes. You could tell that Stan was having a good time. But yes, the styling was dope. Altogether, and this is a separate point, I think the creative direction in this film and the production design, they were actually on point. The creative direction was actually top tier. What else did I like? I liked the sets that these characters were in, like their living rooms, their living areas and whatnot. Those were all right. They were really nice, very tasteful. I also liked the locations that they used. The homes, the mansions were really good. And there was great use of space, like I mentioned earlier. They don't just film in the living room. They take, wide shots. You see the living area. You see the dining area. You go into the kitchen, and the camera wasn't just static in one position. The camera was moving around, and you could really see the environment. The acting also was actually really good. By and large, generally, there were very powerful performances in this film. Next, the messaging. The predominant message of this film is family dynamics, especially as it pertains to marriage. Because, they always say that when you're marrying someone, you're not just marrying them, you're marrying their family, or you're marrying into their family. And this film kind of draws back the curtain on all that and sees and shows us rather what it's like when you're marrying into a family, and this family has a very strong and peculiar dynamic. And that's something I'd never seen before, and I like that they explored that. And it's not just one dynamic, it's several dynamics. And if you're a young person who's thought of settling down, or you're already settled down, the things that are discussed or shown in this movie are things that would have crossed your mind at some point in time when you think about marrying someone and what their family is like. Also, the guest or the surprise actor in this film, actress actually, I really liked how they put a surprise in there. It gave me something that was memorable, in the film. And Nollywood films these days, many of them lack memorable elements and memorable scenes and memorable performances, but this film had all of those things. Next, I liked that there was a faith element to this movie. You see, this movie was made by, was it made by people in Koza, or the leadership of Koza? In the end credits, I saw the names of the pastors of Koza, Mr. and Mrs. Fato Imbo, and I think the director, Bukola Ogunsola, is a wife to a Koza pastor here in Lagos. So Koza was heavily involved in the making of this film, one way or the other. So there was a bit of a faith element in this movie. What else did I like? I liked that there's a character in this film who is anti-marriage, right? And that's not something that they explore enough in Nollywood, in my opinion. So that felt a bit different, and it felt fresh. And I think finally, I liked the sound design and the sound editing in this film, and the score. The music and the audio in this film was actually really good. Where did I watch this film? Ebony Life Place. Finally, I like that there was a memorable phrase in this film. One character kept on saying, "This our non-relationship relationship." And I like when a film has a phrase or a word or something that you can remember after you've seen the movie. Ce que je n'ai pas aimé. I wasn't really a fan of a scene in this film, or a portion of the film, where Stan and Elma's character, they receive visitors, right? And they serve them juice. And they serve them from, I think, a Chivita, juice box. But they don't want to give Chivita, the filmmaker doesn't want to give Chivita free adverts or free whatever. So they kind of they take it off. I just felt it was a bit tacky for this big budget film. The second thing I didn't like about this film, I wasn't a fan of, rather, let me put it that way, was a plot twist that happens in the final act of this movie where, something unexpected happens and something is introduced. I saw the relevance of it, if I must be honest, right? And I see how it did aid the story and how the story ends, but I personally could have done without it. Or maybe it's the execution, the way they went about that plot twist. Qui devrait le voir? See this movie, something about the Briggs, if you are into fashion and style, right? Because you will have lots to look at with the styling in this film. Next, if you like a good drama, this is one of the better dramas I've seen from Nollywood in the past 2 years. In 2024, 2025, one of the better dramas I've seen. In conclusion, something about the Briggs is a very endearing drama with powerful messaging and intriguing visuals. I think the storytelling of this film was also very intentional, and each of the subplots of the movie really hit their mark. And when I was done with this film, I remember saying to myself, that was money well spent. My movie tickets to see this film, money well spent. I give this movie, something about the Briggs, 3.5 jollofs over 5. I think the producer-director, Bukola Ogunsola, did a really good job, and so did the cast and the crew of this film. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think most people will be able to appreciate it for what it is, right? A very powerful film with actors who work well together and who all brought their A game, I must say. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this review, I really hope that you did. Please do me a favor and like it by clicking on the like button just underneath the video, and subscribe to my channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button on this channel. I don't just do Nollywood movie reviews, I also talk about some other things. To check out some of my past reviews, you can click the card in the corner of the screen. I recently reviewed the film Real Love, right? And I also recently reviewed the movie, my friend's movie, Summer Rain. Please go and check out Summer Rain. It's still showing in cinemas as at now. It's a very lovely drama. It stars Daniel Etim Effiong as well, and Bolaji Ogumola. And it's a nice one. I think if you've seen something about the Briggs, I think you will also enjoy Summer Rain as well. So please check that out in the cinemas. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was a bit of a long one, but for good reason. Thanks so much for watching, guys. This has been awesome. I need to go and work on the next review. I will catch you in the next one. Take care.